Hi, I'm Melissa. I go by the artist title of Her Art She Loves. I make mixed media robot sculptures out of polymer clay and wire that I coil into little springs and then bake and paint them. I started out 6 years ago, coming from a background of getting out of graphic design, and I wanted to do hands-on art again. I had a little bit of an online background with being a former Amazon bookseller and understanding eBay, and I discovered Etsy.com, which is all handmade by the artists, and I wanted to do something really geeky and nerdy, so I started with robot sculptures. And I initially just made these really abstracty little robots without mouths. They're all shiny and silvery. And then about a year in, a bride came to me and asked for a wedding cake topper, and it snowballed from there, and I've been doing that. Started out using polymer clay as a child, just playing with it and experimenting, and over the last 6 years I've basically self-taught myself how to use it better each day, every month, every year, between online searches, video tutorials, a few books. I've then increased my skill set, take on all kinds of custom orders every day. I have right now I ask a 30-day turnaround because I have so many to do. So my creations are polymer clay, which is it's actually not real clay. It's a synthetic material that you bake in your home oven for 20 to 40 minutes, depending on the thickness of the piece. And polymer clay comes in a variety of colors, or you can mix your own. I also paint the polymer clay with either mica powders, which is like basically a version of a shiny eyeshadow, and acrylic paints that I give it an aged, rustic-y look. And I also actually make all the little coils that you see that are their arms, legs, and necks. And I use a coiling gizmo to actually create that. And this is a common jewelry tool, but I will make about 20 or 30 of these at a time, and then cut them down to size, put everything together, and then bake and paint my little robots from there. Right now I'm working on a custom order that is due in December. This is a snowman. This is going to be a whole scenic scene of a robot in the snow, in his big parka, including on his little treadmill feet, and he'll be holding a shovel and making a snowman himself. And this was from a gentleman who came to me at my studio and showed me artwork of his friend who actually retired from drawing robot illustrations and wanted to encourage him to get back into that. So I'm recreating this piece for his friend, and it will be a Christmas gift. So this starts out, in this case, polymer clay, you really don't want it to be too thick in the piece. So starts out with tin foil to thicken it up, and then everything from here on is polymer clay. And in this case, I mixed this shade of blue, but this is pre-existing reds and whites. And then from here, for his little face, for Sculpey, this comes in metallic colors like golds and silvers, but I find it's a little too streaky, so I mix it down, which is just mixing some white clay and getting the streakiness out. And when this bakes, it will be a little shiny and sparkly and metallic-y. And I will then add the coils that I make into the piece and glue everything together, and then take a little wash of brown, just a simple brown acrylic paint, and wipe everything, just muddy it up basically, wipe it off, and then it just brings out all the details in the little piece. And I do that with most of my pieces. Buyers really like the aged, kind of antique, grungy look, and I do that for all the little bots. But most of the time I am doing custom orders. When I do catch up, I make seasonal pieces like little Christmas ornaments. So I will be doing, usually in August, you have all your Christmas ornaments ready and made. So I will have those for Christmas time. I'll have little snow bots, ginger bots, which are gingerbread men, snowmen, and so on, and I make those. Most of the robots, they can be freestanding, but I prefer to put them on a base. So I usually do a base that is gear or circle shaped. And I leave that up to the buyer, but in most cases I'll do a gear shape because they are robots. So in this case I'm just going to make a simple little base that'll be gear shaped. And with polymer clay, it's a non-toxic material that goes in your home oven. It's the same oven you would bake cookies in. So you just soften it with your hands, and from there, after I get it just soft enough, I treat it a little bit like you do baking and fondant. You get it just to the right shape. Some of the same tools. So this is going to be a simple circle, and I use a few cutting tools. And let me grab one of those. A few cutting tools. And we'll turn this into a little gear. And all of the styles I make and all the robots were just self-taught and experimenting with the materials and the tools that I like. There we go. And the last step I do on all of these before I go to bake them is using what are now considered vintage letterpress kits that you would make business cards from back in the day, and I hand set all the little letters here I usually put my artist info, I set the lettering up, and I stamp those on the bottom of the bases. I do that mostly for custom cake toppers, so when you turn the base over, it'll say like Ann and Al 2016. Gives it that personal touch with a little dedication. And it allows me to put my artist info on there. So very quickly, that's a little gear that they all stand on, such as that. And then this piece will then bake, and I'll either do a rusticy finish with paint or a straight out varnish. I try to use all non-toxic materials, the polymer clay, the wires, the varnishes, water-based, anything like that. And I try to use materials actually sourced in the US, like Polyform, which puts out Sculpey, is made in the US, and the wire that I use, US-based, and so on. I try to at least source within the US if I can't source locally. So this gives you an idea of how I create my artwork, and this closes out another episode of Diversity of Urban Art.